All right. Happy Friday, everybody. This is coming out of Link NKY, written by Ketten Hornbeck and released on March 6th, 2026. The Ohio Valley Water Sanitation Commission estimates about 394,000 pounds of trash were removed from the Ohio River's shores each year through cleanup efforts. ADM volunteers from Erlanger and Silver Grove helped remove around 17,000 pounds of waste over the years through multiple cleanups with the nonprofit. During a June cleanup starting at Schmidt Boat Ramp in Cincinnati, volunteers collected scrap metal, tires, tools, and electronics along riverbanks in Kentucky and Ohio. The Ohio River Valley Water Sanitation Commission estimates that roughly 394,000 pounds of trash were removed from the Ohio River in 2025. As one of the Ohio state's largest rivers, the Ohio receives a disproportionate amount of industrial discharge, agricultural runoff, and litter. To combat the ongoing pollution issue, environmental cleanup nonprofits like Living Lands and Waters take to the water, collecting trash from river shorelines and dredging up waste from beneath the surface. Out of the hundreds of thousands of pounds of waste collected from waterways nationwide in 2025, approximately 17,000 pounds were gathered through multiple cleanup events coordinated by a partnership between Living Lands and Waters and Archer Daniels Midland, ADM. The corporation has a larger campus in Erlanger at 1260 Pacific Avenue near Cincinnati or Northern Kentucky International Airport. Last June, 30 participants from ADM's Erlanger and Silver Grove campuses participated in a river cleanup that yielded thousands of pounds of waste. The cleanup was one of many the company has participated in over the past decade. The cleanups are wide-ranging, as volunteers focus on retrieving waste such as scrap metal, tires, and discarded tools, as well as electronic waste. Lisa Roberts, an environmental director at ADM, told Link and KY that volunteers from ADM and Living Lands and Waters gathered at Schmidt Boat Ramp on 2944 Humbert Avenue in Cincinnati. Upon arrival, the volunteers boarded a barge and traveled south down the Ohio River, removing trash from the waterway and the shorelines of Kentucky and Ohio. The cleanup stopped upon reaching the Combs Hell Bridge near Fort Thomas. Once completed, volunteers often stack dozens of full trash bags onto a barge. It is then sorted into material categories such as metal, rubber, or general waste, and after that, the items are transported away from the river to proper disposal or recycling sites. Items like scrap metal are often recycled, while general waste is sent to landfills. Roberts said that for her and the volunteers, the cleanup was more than a team-building event, but a way to make a tangible difference in the community. Many of the volunteers have participated in more than one local cleanup. It's really nice to go out there and make a tangible impact, Roberts said. You pull up to the shoreline and you see all kinds of wastes, and by the time you're done, it's all cleaned up. And we know that Living Lands and Waters will then take it and either dispose of it responsibly or recycle what they can. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. The partnership between her organization and Living Lands and Waters began in 2004, although the greater Cincinnati cleanup started in 2015 after ADM's purchase of the Wild Flavors Erlanger campus that year. In 2022, ADM's American River Transportation Company subsidiary donated a 750 horsepower towboat to Living Lands and Waters to help the organization transport barges and equipment up and down major waterways. Living Lands and Waters founder Chad Pregracke? We're going with Pregracke. Previously touted the donation as a means to expand the organization's capacity for river cleanups. The new tug will allow us to clean up hundreds of more miles of riverfront and remove millions of more pounds of garbage in the coming years, Pregracke said in his press release. Looking ahead to this year, Roberts said ADM and Living Lands and Waters are still deciding on dates and times for the annual cleanup, although she noted it will likely be in the late summer or early fall. All right, this article was published by Cleveland Magazine, Annie Nickloff, on March 6th, 2026. Nothing could have prepared the Cleveland Metro Parks Amphibian Patrol Team for the influx of interest in the 2025 salamander migration. The 14-member group waited in the evening mist on one particularly popular night, watching person after person, flashlight after flashlight, approach the park's system's most well-known viewing point. Lights bobbed along the pathways and scanned the dewy ground for critters. As salamanders and frogs scuttled across roadways and spring grass, a total of 442 people, hundreds more than in prior years, huddled to get a glimpse. Some people scooped them up, posing with the animals for photos. Some stepped off the paths and into the woods, inadvertently risking squishing the animals. When I see the lights, I'm happy and sad, says Min Sui Kyung, Cleveland Metro Parks Nature Center manager. I'm happy that people are excited. I'm sad because there are so many people going. We stopped vehicular traffic. Foot traffic can also cause mortality. Last year, Kyung and her small team struggled to keep up with the crowds at their peak. The numbers were too high, Kyung says. It was like, are there more people than amphibians? I think there are. Cleveland Magazine agreed not to name the specific Cleveland Metro Parks location in this article in the interest of protecting the animal, which can be seen migrating in parts of eastern North America this time of year. To prepare for this year's migration, Kyung has already recruited more amphibian ambassadors to patrol the popular viewing areas, monitor crowds, and advise respectful viewing. Additionally, Cleveland Metro Parks will close more roadways for the duration of the migration, which spans from March to early April. I'm excited that people want to connect with nature, Kyung says. But we've got to keep these critters, or we've got to help these critters, right? We've got to help them cross the road. There's a photo of a salamander. A family tradition every spring season. John Stepp, her husband, and their 2 sons have witnessed the salamander migration for 20 years. The first warm spring rain and a corresponding rise in soil temperature awakens some salamander populations like an alarm clock every spring. Roused from their dormant states underground, where they spend the majority of their lives, they make their way to vernal pools to mate before retreating back underground. Along with the spotted salamander, Ohio's state amphibian, the Stepps also seek out two-line salamanders, wood frogs, spring peepers, and crayfish. Gradually, Stepp has seen Northeast Ohio's once small flock of local amphibian fans expand. It started out being a couple dorks like me, she says. Now there's so many social media sites. I'm part of the Cuyahoga Valley Trail Enthusiasts Facebook group. A lot of times people will post there it's happening, and then the cars start showing up. There's so many cars now that people are just parked on the side of the road. Step, a nurse who owns bearded dragons at home, says she used to pick up frogs and salamanders during the migration, but stopped touching the animals when she learned from a volunteer that oils in human skin can cause harm. The annual amphibian migration brings a simple joy, a reminder that spring is around the corner. They bond over their quirky tradition, waiting for the perfect conditions for the small, squirmy event that lands sometime between late February and early April every year. Like the science behind their life cycles, there's a science to predicting when exactly the migration will take place. Eddie Lagucki, let's try a few more pronunciations instead. Lagucki, I'm gonna be honest, I think Lagucki was right. Eddie Lagucki is good at figuring it out. I'm kind of the salamander spidey sense guy, he says. Lagucki has correctly predicted the migration in the 4 years he's worked at the horticulture director. He's correctly predicted the migration in the 4 years he's worked as the horticulture director at Kirtland's Red Oak Camp, a not-for-profit summer camp that features a shallow concrete pond favored by an established population of spotted salamanders, along with Jefferson salamanders and eastern newts. On this annual evening, Red Oak Camp welcomes 30 visitors to view the salamanders as they make their pilgrimage. Attendees, chosen through a lottery system, are given red light flashlights and instructions on the best viewing practices. Then they watch as the ground comes alive with movement. Sometimes I feel like some people who are putting on events could be better at letting the general public know how fragile of an event this is, Lagucki says. That is the main reason we have a restriction here on how many people can come. In a way, it's nature's chaos that's happening, but you don't want to add human chaos on top of it. In recent years, local interest in the salamander migration has spiked, and Lagucki understands why. He says the migration is his favorite night of the year, and even got a life-size tattoo of a spotted salamander after the 2025 event. When you get to experience an event like this, it allows you to really connect with nature on a deeper level and feel you're a part of it, Lagucki says. It's a magical experience. 3 tips to safely view migrating salamanders. First is use a red light. Red Oak Camp Horticulture Director Eddie Lagucki recommends avoiding white flashlights, which can confuse salamanders and make them pause. They generally don't see red wavelengths, so they'll just keep going on about their journey, he says. Number 2, don't bring dogs or strollers. Step carefully and avoid bringing strollers that can roll over the critters, says Cleveland Metro Parks Nature Center manager Min-Sui Kung. Dogs can occasionally try to play with or eat the salamanders on migration nights as well. No touching. Kyung says to watch, but don't touch, the amphibians which breathe through their skin. All right, by Nick Swartzel, NPR News Network, WVXU. Published February 10th, 2026. Democrats in the Ohio House say they'll introduce 8 bills to respond to the Trump administration's aggressive immigration enforcement efforts. Federal immigration agents in Minnesota have shot and killed 2 people and injured a number of others. State Representative Karen Brownlee says she doesn't want a similar situation in Ohio. These reckless policies create a power struggle between law enforcement and their communities that no one wants, Brownlee said during a news conference on the steps of the Hamilton County Courthouse on Tuesday. In Ohio, we stand with both citizens and law enforcement in calling for common sense solutions. Brownlee, who represents a district including Sims Township, is introducing a bill with State Representative Cecil Thomas that will prohibit law enforcement officers from obscuring their faces with masks to hide who they are. Called the Community and Police Protection Act, the bill also requires law enforcement personnel to wear badges or patches with identifying information. Thomas, who represents a district encompassing part of Cincinnati, said the measure is part of a larger package of legislation. The bills that we are introducing are designed to return the rule of law to the state of Ohio, he said. We do not want to see what happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota. State Representative Ashley Bryant Bailey, whose district includes other parts of the city from Hyde Park to Bond Hill, is introducing another bill that would set mandatory standards for detention centers in the state. Those would apply to all juvenile and adult courts, she said, not just facilities holding ICE detainees. There have been reports from Butler County Jail of folks standing in freezing temperatures, not being allowed to contact their family and friends, not being allowed to observe their religious rites, Bailey said. That's not the Ohio we know. The Ohio Department of Rehabilitations and Corrections has said Butler County Jail meets its recommendations, but people held there on ICE detainers and their advocates dispute this. WVXU spoke to one detainee at the jail who claimed he was not receiving adequate medical attention. He said his condition was bad enough that he was requesting to be deported immediately to his native Senegal rather than stay in the American jail. Other bills in the package from Democratic lawmakers include measures that would bar immigration enforcement actions in hospitals, places of worship, schools, and other sensitive areas, limit the collection and sale of Ohioans' personal information by government entities, and guarantee independent investigations of allegations of federal agent misconduct. GOP lawmakers have a supermajority in the Ohio General Assembly and seem unlikely to pass the raft of legislation. Meanwhile, Republicans in the Ohio State House have introduced 3 of their own bills related to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policies. Those bills, HB 26, HB 281, and HB 200, would require local law enforcement to notify ICE if they believe they have a person without immigration status in their custody. It would make it easier for federal agents to undertake immigration enforcement actions in hospitals, and would make it a state crime to be in Ohio without immigration status. Those bills are in committee now. All right, this next article is coming from 91.7 WVXU from the NPR network. It's written by Nick Swartzel and published on March 4th, 2026. Teacher, healthcare unions push back on Ohio legislation aiding ICE. Greater Cincinnati nurses and teachers unions say legislation in the Ohio General Assembly aiding ICE would hurt people they serve. 4 of those groups held a news conference at Levine Park in Avondale Wednesday asking state lawmakers to reject bills currently under consideration in the Ohio House of Representatives. Those bills, HB 26, HB 281, HB 544, and HB 200, would respectively require local law enforcement to notify ICE if they believe they have a person without immigration status in their custody, make it easier for federal agents to undertake immigration enforcement actions in places like hospitals and schools. It would also make it a felony to impede federal immigration agents, and it would make it a state crime to be in Ohio without immigration status. Republicans who introduced the legislation have said they are necessary to increase public safety and help federal agents do their jobs efficiently. The bills are in committee now. They carry real consequences. Steve Mokabe is president of UC's chapter of American Association of University Professors. He said making it easier for ICE to access places like universities could make his students less safe. It might not seem that a bunch of professors would care about immigration policy, but we do, he said, because it's fundamental to our students, staff, and faculty to be able to do their work and learn without being in an environment of fear and anxiety. Cincinnati Registered Nurses Association President Kylie Ham echoed those sentiments at Wednesday's news conference. I'm here today to ask state lawmakers to reject the various bills that would make schools and hospitals less safe by opening them to various immigration actions, she said. Representatives from the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers and Faculty Alliance of Miami were also at the news conference. CFT President Julie Sellers said that legislation could have a big impact on K through 12 students in Cincinnati. We know it will have a big impact for our students' attendance. We are already seeing that, she said. It's not fair to any child to have to live their lives in fear. These are not abstract policy debates. They carry real consequences for educators, schools, and for thousands of families across our state. All right, from the NPR News Network, WVXU, Ohio's legislature wants to punish cities that consider ranked choice voting, by Howard Wilkinson, published March 6, 2026. The late, great Marion Spencer, Cincinnati's first African-American woman elected to city council and tireless advocate for the city's charter form of government, almost always had a smile on her face. Almost always. When self-serving politicians did something she believed was foolish or corrupt, her eyes narrowed, and she would shoot them a look that could burn a hole in metal plating. She would not be smiling this week. Marion Spencer would be furious. On Wednesday, the Ohio Senate, in a 24-7 vote, gave final approval to Senate Bill 63 and sent it to the desk of Governor Mike DeWine to be signed into law. Senate Bill 63 would punish any city, village, or township in Ohio that even thinks about adopting a ranked choice voting system. Doing away with ranked choice voting has been a priority of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement since the 2024 campaign, and the very MAGA Republican majority in the Ohio General Assembly, plus a handful of Democrats, is more than willing to oblige. Fair Vote, a national advocacy group, has a simple definition for ranked choice voting. RCV is straightforward. Voters have the option to rank candidates in order of preference, first, second, third, and so forth. If your first choice doesn't have a chance to win, your ballot counts for your next choice. Mrs. Spencer was, to her dying day, a tireless advocate of proportional representation, the form of ranked choice voting Cincinnati used to elect city council members from 1925 to 1957. Nearly every conversation about politics with Mrs. Spencer came around to her insistence that Cincinnati should go back to PR. The sooner, the better. It is more complicated than the current system for conducting municipal elections. Is it more complicated than the current system for conducting municipal elections? Yes, it is. But as Miss Spencer used to say, you don't understand how your television set works, yet when you turn it on, it works. Officials in two Cuyahoga County communities, Lakewood and Cleveland Heights, have suggested putting ranked choice voting on the ballot. Under Senate Bill 63, sponsored by Republican Teresa Gavarone of Wood County and Democrat Bill DeMora of Columbus, any community, even proposing adopting the system, would do so at the risk of having their share of Ohio's local government fund cut off. That would be a major blow for communities, particularly the smaller ones. DeMora, in an interview this week, said ranked choice voting would be enormously expensive and comes with no additional funding for boards of elections who would have to administer it. It's the law in Ohio that even if ranked choice voting were in effect in one little community, every polling place in the county would have to have the same machines, DeMora said. I talk to my fellow Democrats all the time who believe this is some kind of panacea. Panacea? And it's not. I don't like to take away home rule from Ohio cities, but I make an exception in this case, he said. State Representative Ashley Bryant Bailey, a Cincinnati Democrat, said the issue to her is not whether ranked choice voting is good for Ohio, but whether Republicans in the legislation should have the power to punish communities who might want that system. I think local communities should have the ability to choose for themselves, Bailey said. There's no community in Ohio with ranked choice voting today. It has been nearly 70 years since Cincinnati voters did away with proportional representation in council elections and went to the current 9X system. The reason Cincinnati abandoned PR in 1957 is not a pretty one. In fact, it is one of the most shameful episodes in Cincinnati political history. Republicans and people in the business community knew that if proportional representation continued, Ted Berry, an African-American council member and civil rights lawyer, would soon be the top vote-getter and would take a turn as mayor. There was a Sub Rosa whisper campaign aimed at Berry, urging white voters to get rid of proportional representation before they woke up one morning with a black mayor. And the campaign worked. Berry stayed on council for a while and then left town to join President Lyndon Johnson's administration. He came back to town, ran for council, and was chosen by a coalition of Charterites and Democrats to be the city's first black mayor in 1972. He served as mayor for 3 years. And he became the political mentor to Mrs. Spencer, who was president of Cincinnati of the Cincinnati NAACP when she was elected to city council. Mrs. Spencer's dream was the same as Ted Berry's, that Cincinnati would return to its roots and bring back proportional representation. But with Senate Bill 63 in place, their dream will remain just that, a dream that may never come true. by WVXU NPR News Network and written by Howard Wilkinson. Published March 6th, 2026.